Hello, everybody. I know it's a little late. I'm glad y'all are in here. Looks like there's a good crowd already. Appreciate you guys stopping by. A lot to talk about with this game, and I'm sure y'all are frustrated. So we'll get into it. Hold your questions for a couple of minutes for me. Let me get through my thoughts. I don't want to miss early questions because I'm not paying attention trying to get all this out. Couple of positives off the bat. The Williams and Williams show. And any of you country fans probably know old Don Williams used to have a song about the Williams boys, right? Really positive takeaway from tonight is them all by themselves, giving a 1-2 punch to this running game that's going to be important down the stretch. It makes up for not only Hunt being gone, but Ware being injured. I think what you saw was a lot of spark from these two particular players. Damien, man, what can you say about him? Not only did he run fast, not only did he hit the holes well, but really, I was impressed with how hard he ran. There was one play there at the end where he actually trucked old Derwin James, who I have to say played a good game. He is that good. So obviously they didn't shut out Kelce. Didn't think they were gonna, but that's a good game from him. So I see a lot of you talking about Sutton. We're going to get to all that, I promise you. I want to talk about the players first, and then we'll get to the coach. Long story short, what we saw was the matchup that we're going to see for quite a while. Those wide receivers in Los Angeles are young. They're big and tall and strong. And, the Chiefs run kind of a shorter group of corners. Matt Blue, thanks for the donation. I appreciate that. I actually bought some new lights, so I'll have some new stuff for you guys soon. Appreciate that tip, buddy. And I can understand why it feels like you got cheated. We'll get to that, I promise you. The refs were interesting. But a couple of big takeaways. This is a matchup you're going to see. The Chiefs have to get bigger at corner next year. There's going to be a lot of turnover in that secondary just because of contracts and where they all are and how it's all going to play out. There are going to be a bunch of new ones. And I understand you guys are frustrated with Orlando Scandrick, and you should be. He didn't play well, hasn't played well for a couple of weeks, but again, he's better than anything else that they have or that they had coming out of training camp. So you got to roll with what you have and try to adapt to it. So I don't know what happened to Eric Berry, and honestly, we should go back there to the positive. How good was Eric Berry tonight? It was impressive about what he was able to do after being out for so long and being in a significant injury. I thought that he looked pretty spry. He got beat and kind of turned around on one play, and then he went out. And I know he came back in for a couple of plays, but I don't think that he had a whole lot left in him. So it looks like from the way he was acting, looked like he had a helmet for a while and then he put a hat on, whatever. And those are the signs that tell you he's not going to come back in. But the difference is, I think like they felt, unfortunately, that they didn't need him, that they were in a good position. And that ended up not being the case. But I thought what you saw from Eric Berry was not only his play, but you saw everything ratchet up a notch. Everybody. The linebackers were playing better in the first half. The D-line was playing better in the first half. Even the secondary. You saw him get real hot at Orlando Scandrick at one point because he wasn't listening to him. Eric had made a call. Scandrick was arguing with him. Ended up, you could see him physically angry on the field. And this is the problem. And it goes right back to the end of the game. What you saw is that despite having decent athleticism, having that lead, understanding what you have to do, the defense looked a little bit tired. They were on the field too much. We'll talk about the offense because the offense lost this game. But the big thing was that you saw the lack of communication at the end of the game. Total disarray in that secondary. Nothing like what you saw in the first half. And that's because of the presence of Eric Berry. And you can see, especially the fact that Scandrick wasn't getting things right. And he's been playing all season. And now you're going to see Eric Berry kind of set him straight in the first half. There was no one to do that in the second half. It comes down to experience and leadership, and it's just something that's been missing. Cool Mars, thanks for the donation. I appreciate that. I'm trying not to get too derailed because I know everybody's got a late evening. I don't want to take too much time tonight. But thank you. I appreciate it. That leadership is what's been missing. in that secondary. I think you really, really saw the stark difference from the way they played the end of the first half to the way they played at the end of the second half. And that is all about who can get him in on the field so he can get everybody in the right position. That's the key. And having that field general back there, it's more than just his play, his presence. It's helping everybody else. Bob Sutton's defense is complex. There's a lot of reads. There's all kinds of stuff. You can see the hesitation in the linebackers. For Christ's sake, at one point, Hitchens had a clear path to the ball carry on an end around, sat down in the hole. Because my guess is, and I'm totally guessing only because I know some things from the past about the way that the coaching has gone on, that he was supposed to be manning that gap rather than attacking and risking a cutback. And that's the big thing. When you have linebackers that aren't attacking, it's because somebody's scared of the cutback. That's the big problem. So that's another facet of the Sutton defense. And I think playing that passivity is part of the problem too. When you have that thing that EB can bring you, that intensity. Matt, I appreciate that. Yeah, he did. He definitely was hot. I mean, hot in a way that I don't think I've ever seen him on the field before. And I don't know if that's just the heightened emotions of him being back after quite a while, but you know, that's not something you see on the field that much. Like I was saying earlier, we're going to see that matchup from the LA receivers for a while because they're young. They're big and strong. And I think that as much as Nelson was picked on and had some struggles with those bigger guys, you know, he got beat a couple of times, and then you saw him make a big play in the end zone there down the stretch right at the end of the game before the nonsense on the other side of the field went. And I think what they saw is that he was tightening down, that he was being able to man up enough that even though he wasn't beating him to the spot, he was able to attack the arms, try to deflect some of those passes. He was getting, you know, the rip maneuver in and up, and that was troublesome. I don't think they thought they could score on him, and that's why they went at Scandrick. I think the miscommunication was really what led to that 2-point conversion. That was embarrassing. Two guys that have been playing together the bulk of the season should be able to communicate on a simple banjo right there. One has the inside, one has the outside. Doesn't matter who goes where. It's a pretty straightforward coverage. So that's communication. That's execution on the players as well. That one I can't blame on Bob. So you got to take that away from it too. Quick thought on the refs. I don't like to go into the refs very much because it's not anything that you can affect. You never know who's really going to do anything or how they're going to call it. The big takeaway for me is the refs were calling a fairly loose game early, and all of a sudden down the stretch, they tightened it up. And I don't know why all of a sudden that those last, 8 minutes, all these flags were out. But that's problematic because it's not a consistent way to call the game. And there are calls that they made that were wrong. You know, honestly, I think Dorian O'Daniel could have gotten pegged for that helmet to helmet. Didn't look like it live to me, but on the replay it did, and they certainly had time to look at it. That phantom call on Fuller down the stretch really put them in a bad position. But here's why I said earlier, and I want to come back to it now, that the reason they lost this game is the offense. As good as the Williamses were, and as some creative plays that Mahomes made, they had the ball at 4 minutes. And I can't remember if they went 3 and out or if they went 4 and out or whatever it was. They had the chance to seal that game. They ran poorly. I think they took a loss on first down, and then they threw, and they handed the ball right back to him. You can't do that. You can't do that against an experienced offense that is good. And it doesn't matter whether it was the Rams or the Patriots or this Chargers team. They're all good. So when it comes down to it, your job is to possess that ball and finish it off. It's imperative that they learn to do that. And that's partly Andy, and it's partly execution on the player's part. Travis Weller, thanks for the donation. I appreciate that. I don't think it's going to be hard to recover from it all. I think this is going to hurt. This is going to stick in their gullets. They're going to be pretty upset, I think. Rightfully so on some of the calls, but also that they let this slip away. Like I said in the game plan video, when you break it all down, they're in first place still because of the tiebreaker situation. They're 1-1 against the Chargers. And the Chargers have an extra loss in the division, and that's why for right now they're going to stay up. The Chiefs need to win out. If the Chargers lose, the Chiefs still need to beat the Raiders. So this, again, is a situation just like this game where the offense had a chance to take the game for them. Is it Binder Believer or Binder? I know it's a reference to all the international scouts. I used to have one, but I just never knew how to pronounce that. But thank you for the donation. I appreciate it. It's one of those things that they had the chance to control the game. They didn't. They have a chance to control their destiny down the stretch for the playoffs. Will they? That's what it comes down to. I think one of the keys, like we were talking about with Barry, they need to have him back and have him moving forward. That's going to be key for this team down the stretch, these next two games. And those will set up for the next game. Matt Blue, thank you for your donation. Appreciate it. Came all the way from Mississippi. Oh, man, I'm sorry for that. That is a long drive. Apologies. That's tough. But you saw probably one of the most hyped crowds that's been in that stadium for the last few years. So I hope you enjoyed that part. Okay. So down the stretch, they have to take care of business. That's what it is. You can go to Sutton talk. And I know a lot of you, when we first started, were talking Sutton. And by the way, thanks to all you newbies that are on here. First time we broke 500. So thank you very much. I see a lot of guys, a lot of folks, some ladies. Thank you, Angie, that are in the chat. Nice to see you all. Thanks for joining. I know this is a tough night and pretty disappointing, but we'll work through this together. The Sutton conundrum. And here's the thing. You can call any defense if you have the players that can understand it and execute it. There is a way for Bob's defense to work, but these players aren't it. Yusura, thank you for your donation. It seems like we've been much better road team. I don't think you have to worry about Barry. I think he'll be okay. I think they're probably being cautious, and that's important. You need him down the stretch. You need him long term. So if he tweaked something or he wasn't able to finish out of caution, okay, that's fine. It didn't look like he was re-injured or anything, so I think they're going to be okay. But Eric Berry, again, is another symptom of the Bob Sutton defense. To run Bob's defense, you have to understand it, and you have to execute it in a way that plays to your strengths. And I don't think that he does that. I don't think Bob's adaptable, and that's part of the problem. I think he's a little too passive all the way around. You don't see the Chiefs' corners jam very much, especially against these bigger guys. I would have got up in their grill all night long, especially there on that last drive. Disrupt their route from the snap, and that gives smaller DBs a chance to play tight. That's just something that he doesn't do. And I don't think we're ever going to see him do it. That's the problem. I do think that you need to see a change. Whatever the limitation is going to be this season, and I'm still not convinced they can't win a Super Bowl. They really, really can. They have to get some things together, and they have to get up against a team that doesn't score as well. Or that has to outscore them in order to win. And there are some teams out there like that in this playoff. So don't hang your heads too much. There's even some San Diego fans LA fans in here. Welcome. Don't be angry. Nobody goes into your chats and starts raising hell from the Chiefs. So take it easy. No, Patrick Morse, it's not a fancy way of saying his scheme sucks. That's not true. The scheme works. I think he needs a different set of players is what it is. He's not adapting his system to what he has. He's trying to adapt his players to his system. And we've seen over the years that just doesn't work. We've seen people do it in the past in Kansas City. Space Dan Gaming, thank you for your contribution. Appreciate that. Playing time in Oakland and KC. I'm going to the game from Colorado. So am I. I will be at the Raiders game in Arrowhead. So if any of you are going to be in attendance, let me know where you're tailgating or whatever. I'll have the wife with me and all that, and we're going to make the rounds and try to see everybody, Big Sean and all those guys. So let me know where you're tailgating out there. Yeah. Bob's a conundrum. I understand that you think his scheme sucks, but it has worked in the past. He worked earlier in his career when he had a different set of players, right? When he had more aggressive players. I think he's kind of dumbed it down. They let Gary Gibbs go at the linebacker coaching position for a reason. I think it's just because of conflict with Bob. I want to see them bring in a different coordinator next season. And there are several that have worked for Andy in the past that I think are going to be available. It looks like Todd Bowles is going to be out there. I don't know if John Harbaugh will. I don't think he called a defense in Baltimore, but the Baltimore defensive coordinator that I'd like to see is Rex Ryan. I still think Rex Ryan is the answer here. A guy who has been a failure as a head coach, and I by no means think he should be a head coach, but he can run a defense. And he will definitely be more aggressive. And I think that's what these players are suited for. I think that will help them. Ethan, thank you for your contribution. I appreciate that. Man, you guys are great tonight. Shrimp Goat, good to see you. As always, thank you. Left the timeout on the board. Love the running backs tonight. Ran with attitude. Yes, sir, they did. Fixing Bob is not something that you can do. I think the relationship, unfortunately, is Andy is so dedicated, so loyal to his guys. It really has to cost him a game, I think, before he's going to make a change. And I just don't know if that's going to happen. It should. I want to see someone more aggressive in there. We'll see if anybody else comes available that we can talk about. And, you know, we'll do all this all off season. I don't really take the off season off. So we'll have plenty of conversation around that. Until then, what we have to do is we got to keep the offense on track. I thought the running game was better. You saw Mahomes make a couple of strange plays. That left-handed pass was him getting a little too carried away. Yes, he's done it in the past, but he didn't have that kind of time. He wasn't, I mean, he was in contact already. That could have been a serious mistake. The O-line struggled. Really, the whole team kind of, I think, hit a wall. And maybe that's because of the overtime against the Ravens the week before. Maybe it's because it's such the short week. Probably both when you actually sit down and think about it. But everybody seemed like they hit a wall in the third quarter. They didn't come out and you didn't see them fired up. I don't see how you go from being that dominant in the first half, even though the score didn't really reflect it, to just kind of shutting down and coaxing through. And then all of a sudden you had enough of a lead late that, or at least going into the fourth quarter, where they felt comfortable. Comfort is a bad thing for a football team. I don't know. I'll have to go back and look at that last drive on offense, because I feel like that was really the key. If they had held serve, at least cut a couple minutes off of that drive, they would have been able to take the game and run it out enough. Even if you had given the ball back to the Chargers, I don't think, with a minute or 45 seconds, they would have been able to score. Those long passes, man, Fuller got beat a couple times on the out of the slot. I think it was Gabriel. Just killed you. And that's something you can't have. And again, it comes back to those players being in communication, understanding where their help is, especially, they played some cover 2. They went into a cover 4 in the red zone a couple of times. And that was, I thought, a good move. It definitely was a different look that the Chargers didn't expect from this team, because they don't play a whole lot of cover 4. It's mixing it up has a positive effect too. I think it's still recoverable though. Cool Mars, I'm glad you agree with me. I was a little frustrated at some points, because I felt like Mahomes had to get the ball out faster. A little too lackadaisical. With that much pressure, he seemed still trying to get it downfield. Obviously, Tyreek was not 100% tonight, but it looked like he was still trying to push it to him. And I felt like they missed a couple of things. I don't like that Kelvin Benjamin played as much as early over Conley, because I felt like it kind of narrowed the field. I didn't feel like Mahomes looked at Kelvin Benjamin much early, especially in the first half when he was in. Just didn't seem to progress to that side. And if you're going to limit half the field, why do that with a quarterback like Mahomes? That felt like just trying to push it. I thought he did make that big body catch. I thought that was good. Did what he needs to do. It looked like he had some intensity about it, so that's a good thing. Clearly they want to get him on the field more. So, my videos asks, can the Chiefs still get home field and the #1 seed? They still have it right now. So they're okay. They have to hold serve. They have to finish out this season. They cannot go and lose to Seattle next week. The Chargers will take over at that point. And here's the thing. The Chargers are good enough. Their record's good enough. Now you're talking about flipping. You're not just like going down to a 2 seed or anything like that because of the division, because they're so good in the division. You're talking about going from 1st to 5th. It's A or B. So they got to hold serve. They got to get that done. They got to keep on track. It could come down to the game that I will be at, the Raiders game at home to close out the season, maybe the most of the most important task of the season. So it could definitely come down to that. Okay. I think those are most of my takeaways. I have notes up here. Yeah, not too much else. Chris Jones. Let's take a second for Chris Jones. Oh, Matt Blue, John Collins, Samir, thank you all for your contributions. Sammer? You'll have to tell me that. Lack of depth at the CB position, the biggest problem. Not the biggest, but it's one of them. If you could have given some relief to Scandrick or Nelson, that probably would have helped. So trying to get the notes here, make sure I cover everything that I wrote down. Jones extends the record, brought the intensity, but again, was part of that group that kind of fell off there at the end. All of a sudden, you saw some urgency on that last drive. They realized that they were in a dogfight, but it kind of snuck up on them, and I was a little disappointed with that. But, man, especially against Feeney, who is a good young guard, he was really on fire, and I think Chris Jones came to play. Again, that's what they have to have. They got some pressure from the outside as well, but late down the stretch, the reason that those Chargers came back is because they didn't get enough pressure on Rivers. Like I told you in the game plan, you got to do it and you got to get in his face. And that's why Jones was so effective, because he was the one getting through the line. That's what was disrupting everything. And credit to Chris Jones. He's going to be great. So, I mean, he is great. He should be amongst the talk for Defensive Player of the Year. He should be a Pro Bowler. If you haven't voted for him or Dee Ford or the guys that deserve it, go out. It's public voting on NFL.com. I'll try to find a link and put it in the next show notes, but go do that. So long story short, he's the last guy. Much kudos. For all of you with the contributions tonight, thank you very much. At this point, I've tried to pick a few questions. Let's start with the questions now. Hit the question marks before you start typing, and that'll let me know. It makes it easier for me to pick it out of the stream. I don't think it might have been 0 in the second half, actually. Peyton Smith. That's a good question. MVP for Mahomes. Yeah, I don't think he did anything to lose himself the MVP race. I think he's still up there. So keep looking at that. Do you feel like having Barry back for the last 2 minutes changes the game? I actually do. If they had been able to put him in and just let him run that secondary there during that last drive of the Chargers, I think the Chiefs win tonight. I don't know why. I don't know if they were trying to show confidence in the guys they had, or if Barry didn't feel very good, if he tightened up. I mean, this is something he's been training. He's been practicing for a while. It shouldn't be like he started to play and it just kind of froze up on him. No, I mean, it's cold out there. Maybe the fatigue of going that hard for that long should catch up with him. We talked about it before. We knew he was on a snap count, but I don't feel like there's no way he could have gone back in there. I just don't know what his status is. Hopefully we'll find out. I'm going to record the podcast with Matt, Derek, and Chris here in a little bit. We'll see if Matt has any information. So check out the podcast. It should be up later tonight. Definitely for mute tomorrow. Why is there a drop pick every week? Because they're DBs, not receivers. If they could catch the ball, they'd be playing on that. That's what they could do it. So, do you think the Chargers pass us in power rankings? I don't care. Power rankings are a joke. It's whatever media wants to write it. It's meaningless. You see, teams in the 10s beat teams in the single digits all the time. Don't worry about power rankings. Worry about matchups. Any CB and free agents that they can help. I actually haven't looked at the 2019 free agency list yet. I'll take a look at that once the Chiefs season is over. Like I said, I'll go all off season. I run Rogue Analytics, the draft analytics company. So my athletic matrix comes out a week or two before the draft. I do it all off season long. I talk about free agency. There'll be plenty of content on here and on the podcast. You know, this is a level up and get up in the top 15 again, much like they did with the Mahomes trade. There are a couple of guys. There's 2 Washington defenders. I'm partial to Washington just because of high school and everything, but they play good defense. That's where Marcus Peters played. They have 2 guys coming out, a safety and a corner that could really help this team. It's something to look at, and we'll look at there when we come around to it. How do you fix this secondary? Let them do what they do. Let them be aggressive. Let them take their guy. Simple what they need to do. And a lot of that is going to come from having a leader on the field. If Eric Berry's okay, and this isn't a setback or anything, he's just easing into it, they're in line. There's no way that he won't do that. That's his biggest takeaway. So don't worry about that. They'll come around. Does 77 need to be replaced? No, he had a bad night. He lost a rather uncharacteristic bad night as well. So I think you got to give the Chargers, they're a good deal. They played 2 defensive front sevens in the last 2 weeks. So I don't think he needs to be replaced. If LDT comes back, yeah, LDT's better, but is he in shape and everything else? So, hey, we'll find out. Okay. Moving down the question list, trying to find all these guys. Sorry. Do we still have a chance? Oh, yeah. Still have a chance at the first round bye. I think it happens, actually. I don't think this team is going to lose another game in the regular season. Ruben, I live out in the sticks, so sometimes, depending on the night, especially on a night when there's a lot of people on, sometimes it gets a little laggy. Sorensen does not tackle well, Sluter. He does hit hard, but he does not tackle well. Defensive scheme, considering our scheme, Carlos Ruiz, good question. Rex Ryan or Todd Bowles? I think both could work. I would have way more faith in Rex just because of his experience. Golden Pater, why not pick up a cornerback instead of Kelvin these last few weeks? Honestly, because I don't think there's anybody out there that can help you. Golden Pater reviews, thank you for that question. I just don't think there's anybody a whole lot better than what they have. Steven Nelson had, gave up passes, but he's a good corner. He's the top-rated corner on this team, and he according to PFF, he's in the top 15 in the league. So I just don't see anybody out there they could upgrade with. Bashaud Breeland ended up going to Green Bay, so he's not out there or anything like that. So, answered that. I don't have any news on LDT. No, I'm sorry. As soon as I do, I will let you know, of course. I don't know much about the Razorback defense, Rev Dog. Sorry. I don't get a lot of time in on the college game until it's draft season. Nathan Roth, was the penalty for Fuller just to make up call for, I don't know. You'd have to ask them. I'd like to say in a perfect world, those refs don't make up calls. And if they make a mistake, they own up to it and they don't penalize the other team for no reason, especially when it changes a game like that. If they did, it's ridiculous. It needs to stop, but I don't know. Draft all defense again, Chief Daddy. Yeah. Maybe a wideout, depending on who gets let go in free agency and that kind of stuff. But yeah, a lot of defense in this upcoming draft. Why keep the timeout in your pocket? He was trying to hold it for the offense, hoping that the defense would either get a stop or they get scored on, and so that he would have it for the offensive play call. That's why Andy didn't call a timeout there down the stretch. Thanks, Table Talk. Folks, we're holding in at 400. We're at a half an hour. Keep it up. Let me know what your questions are. Hit them before, and I will go through these now. We'll try to get them all done. Armani Watts could come back. Don't have any update on his physical condition right now. I would have signed Ian Delpire. Sorry. I would have signed Bashaud Breeland something went wrong there. The fact that they gave him all that access in training camp and he didn't sign, either he made a demand there at the end or something wasn't right. So it could have been health. He had been injured, so that could have been it. Thomas Foxberry was great today. Time to move on. I bruised my Achilles heel. I was limping for a year, not in the NFL. Good point. Okay. Armani Watts question. Yeah, as soon as I know anything about Watts, I'll let you know. We'll find out. I think in the next 2 weeks, the window opens for him. Ruben T, rate DOD's performance tonight. Quiet early, but I felt like he came on and he did the things that he was there to do. Dorian O'Daniel is there to cover running backs and somewhat tight ends. You saw him make a really nice play on that screen pass that came back on the interior where he was waiting. Great play. He covered those backs, had a couple that he kept to like a yard gain or something like that on swing passes, and that just shows his speed. And I think that's really important. He's going to be a big player down the stretch. Eventually, he should take, I'd like to see him take more of the Sorensen role of the up safety, but it all depends on what they decide to do at the inside linebacker spot. I don't know if Hitchens is going to stick. We're going to find out. Red Royce, we are better than I had us at the first of the season. Good point. Overall, this season has been much better than I predicted as well. I had them as a 10-win team going into the season. So, Cooper, I don't know why they didn't play him. We'll try to find out from the press conference. Christopher West, no, Armani Watts is not out for the season. He is capable of coming back. We just don't know if he's healthy enough to do it. I don't know. Yeah. Derwin James overrated. I think his coverage is overrated. But he is a very, very good player. He stacked up Kelce on that one pass for a first down that was really, really impressive. And that's something that not many people can do, especially for a rookie. He is very good. Maybe a slightly overrated guy. He didn't shut out Kelce like a lot of the LA pundits were predicting. So I think that gets taken a little bit too far. But Yusura, how are you? Did you find this game really boring? No, not me. I'm a defensive first kind of guy. So I'm okay with low scoring kind of stuff. I want to see hits. I want to see guys, breathing heavy after plays. And I don't see that a whole lot in this newfangled NFL, but we'll see. Your opinion on Nitty, Julie, thank you for the question. I assume you mean Derek Nottie, 91. Like the way he plays. He's a little over aggressive, but I'm okay with that. I'll take jumping off sides a couple of times a game over getting run over every time. So I'm a big fan of Nottie. I think that's a great pick on Veach's part, and I think he's going to pan out for the long term. What happened to Jordan Lucas? Jordan Lucas blew a lot of assignments. And when asked to come into the box, and that's what Bob wants. He wants the versatile safeties that can play in the back at the free and can come all the way down near the line of scrimmage. And when he was asked to do that, he got run over a couple of times. It's about understanding and, again, learning the defense, which I thought he was on his way to because he got pressed into service there. But I think it's just a comfort with players with more experience in Bob's scheme. That's a good question, though, Christopher. Thank you. Cooper, is it Donnell or Donnell? I'm not sure. Do you think Williams should start over Ware? It's a good question. If he can be explosive in the next game or two, because I'm not sure Spencer's going to be back next week either. We'll see. He's got a good long rest, so it's possible. But I think Damien earned reps no matter what, whether Spencer's back or not. And if he continues to exploit defenses like this, I think then, yeah, you're looking at him maybe being a starter. I also am a big fan of Darrell, and I thought in much, much more limited reps, I thought Darrell did a very good job too. He proved he can catch, and he's certainly better on the inside runs. So I think they have a good conundrum there at the running back position. Scott Conklin, do you really think we can beat Seattle in Seattle? Sure. Not a problem. It's all whether the offense comes out and fires. Russell Wilson's going to attack this defense. They're going to run on him. But that doesn't allow for fast scoring. So it's up to the offense to execute. They can't allow pressure, and Seattle's got some good defenders. I don't think their pass rush is as good as it used to be. I think the middle of their defense an old friend, McDougal, KU player that was on the Chiefs early in his career, is now starting for them at safety. He's playing very well. But I think their front can be exploited. So it's up to the offense to execute as far as I see that one. I haven't looked at all the film yet. I usually don't start until after this session tonight. So 350, good hanging in. We're almost out of here. Questions. LDT. Yep. We talked about him. If you missed any of these questions, just go back and watch it. The video will post when we're done here. Do I think Lucas could play with Barry? Maybe in time. I think, honestly, that spot is reserved for Armani Watts. We'll have to see how he gets there. Who else? Can the defense improve? Rev Dog, good question. Can they improve? Yes, they can. A key component in executing defense is attitude. It's confidence in where you're going and what you're doing, and it's having the mentality that you will win this play. Eric Berry epitomizes that. And he rubs off on his teammates. The key to this defense, the key to this Super Bowl run is getting Eric Berry back and healthy so that he can play and lead this defense. You saw the difference tonight. The first half and the second half were stark differences. That's what Eric Berry can do for you. He's an all-pro. If he had been able to stay healthy this whole time, I think he could have been a Hall of Famer. He is that good. And so, yes, I do think they can improve. He will get that done. We just have to see if they have the time to do it before they have a playoff game. And they have to win down the stretch as well. So, Daniel, Archangel 29, I'm sorry. Please answer me. I must have missed your other questions. Hit it again with a couple question marks at the beginning. Helps me find them, okay? How much potential does Speaks have? He has some. He's got to get fit. He's got to get stronger. And he's got to get that first step going. We'll see. Speaks might have been a little bit of a reach. I think he can come in and play down at the 5 technique as well, though. So that may be their fallback position. Do you think this will be a wake-up call for the defense? I hope so. It certainly is going to be for everybody else. I think Eric Berry will get them going there. The Chiefs seem to like, Niche G, Speaks or Tano, should they develop more? The Chiefs seem to like Speaks better. Tano was inactive tonight. I was a little surprised by that, to tell you the truth. So we'll find out. Looks like we jumped again. Whew, man, tons of this. Thank you guys for all these questions. I'm sorry I'm going slow. Daniel Archangel, I talked about Barry for like 5 minutes. Let me know your actual question. Is there a reason why 88 isn't a retired number? Because they're stubborn. I don't know why. Matt M, thank you for your time. I'm glad you enjoy. More Barry questions. I covered a ton of Barry stuff, folks. If you're late here, check that out back when it goes up on replay. Do you think Patrick will play more reserved and less confident? No, I don't think there's anything slowing down Mahomes' confidence. I think he will maintain that no matter what. Joe Cunningham, thanks for your contribution. This is our last loss. One more road game till Atlanta. Good job. Cheers to you. Oh, by the way, I'm drinking Odd 13's milk stout tonight because I'm in a dark mood. Lady D, that's not very friendly. I hope you like that. Okay, I'm going to find your question, Daniel. Let's see here. Do you think 3 receivers down the line will be Hill, Watkins, and Benjamin? I don't know. It's a good question. I just don't have any way to tell. Sammy's been hurt a lot of his career. He has to prove that he can stay healthy. And Benjamin's a total experiment at this point. Don't read that into anything. There could be a high draft pick. There could be a free agent. There could be a lot of things go on. We talked about Breland Speaks. When's Watkins coming back? It's not going to be till the postseason. From everything they've told us, Sammy won't play until the playoffs. How much does the extra days off help this team finish strong? Michael Rodriguez, that's a very good question. And I think it definitely is something that's going to be important. I'm sorry. Somebody's knocking on my door. My friends are coming over to give me crap. One of my neighbors is a San Diego fan. I'm sorry, LA fan. I keep doing that. How much of the extra days help finish strong? I think it will help. I think they're a little beat up from the Ravens game. I think they are going to come back and rest up, and I think they will be refreshed for that. Okay, Daniel, now I see your question. Why is Barry not in the last play? I don't know. They gave him the second half off. They felt like they could get it done without him is what I think. So I talked a lot about it. If you didn't hear all those answers, you can go back and check that out earlier in the video. It will post when I'm done. I felt Donald should play more. I agree with you. Costly penalties did hurt the team. Yes, you're absolutely right. Pater, I like your attitude. Good job. Does Reed have the gonads to fire Sutton? Bubba Bug. Bubba, that's the key question. Will he do it? I just don't know. He is loyal to a fault from everything that I've heard. We'll just have to find out, man. You'll know when I know, I promise. Okay, getting down here to the last questions, folks. I want to say thank you to everybody who contributed tonight. I appreciate it very much. Shrimp Goat, you're still up there. Thank you. Don't open the door. Julie Jules, good point. Don't. You made a mistake tonight. Close it up. Don't give any other chance for anybody to sneak in there. So I completely agree with that. Do you think the defense is better than the Dick Vermeil defense? You know, that's a very good question. The teams are eerily similar, right? And I think it's about the same when you look at it. A player here or there, you know, it's very, very similar. And it proves that you can win, but can you get all the way to the Super Bowl? That's the question. Sutton, not the problem. It's the defense. Well, I can get behind that. Players have to execute. I agree with you, but there is some problem with the system too. Do you think the Chiefs will blow a lead in the postseason? Cool, man. Maybe. I don't know. If Mahomes gets a fire under him, they might not be close enough. This has to sting, and they have to realize that they can lose any week. This league is too good all the way around. Chiefs drafting next year first round. I talked about that a little bit earlier. First two punts killed us. I don't think the punts hurt you too much, Donald. I don't think that was really a big deal. Daniel, thanks. I'm glad I figured it out. Sorry for the delay there. Is Steven Nelson a top 3 corner? Evan Asias. I think I said that right. It's Evan, sorry. In the league, no. But he's a top 20 corner. At least this season, probably going to move on. Niche G. I don't know. I don't know what they'll do. We're going to find out. Christopher, thank you. Answered that question. Okay. Getting down to the end here, folks. We're going to wrap it up. If you have anything else to ask, go ahead and go for it. How does this Chris Duran, good question. In my opinion, how does this defense get fixed? They draft another safety to learn from Eric Berry. They draft a corner. They might have to go acquire a corner in free agency as well. And they have to find linebackers that can do what they have to do. And all that is dependent upon getting a more aggressive coordinator. I think Bob Sutton's time has come. I mean, I've been saying this for a couple of years, so don't say that I'm just on the bandwagon or something, but they need a more aggressive D coordinator that can attack this modern NFL a little bit better. There are things that you can do that can help, especially if you don't have the long speed at the corner and safety position. You have to do other things to protect them from that. So what kind of draft picks do we have? I'd have to go down the list. There's a 1 and 2 number 2s. That's what's most important. Will he get to 50 touchdowns? Yes, I think he will. I don't think he's going to break the record of 56. That's on Mahomes. I do think, who asked that? Yevgeny Kimelev? I'm not sure about that. Do you think DJ can coach linebackers next season? If he wants to. I think DJ can coach if he wants. I think the Chiefs would give him a chance to. If any indication from Andy Reid is true. Yeah, I think that would be great. Let's say we lose to Seattle, but the Chargers still have to play the Ravens and the Broncos. If they lose a game, it's all the same. Right now, the Chiefs are in first. Whatever happens these next 2 weeks, if the Chargers and the Chiefs do the same thing, then they're okay. And they stay number 1. If the Chiefs lose another game, I think the 2 seed right now has 4 losses, so they can't go below that. But like I said last week, they have to win 2 out of these last 3 games to maintain the first round seed. That hasn't changed. So I think they're okay. Tremont Smith and Travarius Ward, I think they both have potential. I just don't know how much, and I don't know how they're learning. Camp for them this offseason is going to be a big deal for them. Do you think Arrowhead really an advantage in the postseason? Yes, I do. It's outdoor. It's cold. The crowd can be loud. The cold also affects these players. They have to be tough. And back in the 90s, that team took advantage of that. We have to see what this team will do for it. Okay, why are the refs all old white men? I don't know. There's a lot of reasons. There's some younger African refs. I think there's a couple of Hispanic refs as well, if I remember. But this last season with all these terrible calls, especially Jeff Trotter, or I can't remember if that's his first name or not. But there's a whole bunch that retired. Ed Hockley's son is now in the league, but Ed retired. That's bringing a whole lot of fresh blood in there. Unfortunately, the ones that are making all the worst calls are all the experienced refs. So I don't know what it's from. I wish I could tell you. Why are the two deep safeties all the time? Because they need to help the corners. The corners were getting beat up against those big guys, Quincy. That's why they had to play some cover 2. The cover 4 as well, to try and give some help. I think the Chiefs could meet the Chargers in the postseason again. Ian Delpire, sorry. I really think they could. The Chargers are a good team. They're going to beat a lot of teams. I mean, obviously, they've beaten a ton of people. So I think it's definitely a possibility. I'm going to be interested to see how the bracket falls out, and we'll see when that might happen. Byron, the crowd didn't sound loud to you. I didn't get a feel for that at all. I really just don't know. Scandrick instead of Peters. Peters was a cancer Kool-Aid man, 29. I have no problem with Peters being gone. None at all. He was not good for that locker room or that team. So I'll leave it at that. I talked a ton about Bob. For all of you that are asking about Bob now, I covered it a ton earlier in the show. I'm going to wrap it up here, and it'll post, and you can check that out back at the beginning. I haven't looked at the salary cap. That'll come later in the season. So at that said, I appreciate all you guys hanging out. Everybody who contributed, all you regulars, thank you very much. We're going to have more information. I'm going to record the podcast here in a little bit, and we'll get cutting on that. So Evan Elias, thank you. They should have given the ball to Sherman a little bit. I think that would have been good. Tyreek does look a little bit hurt. We'll see how he recovers in the next 10 days. I'll have a film session up probably early in the week again, like normal. Thank you all for hanging out. Good to see you all, and I appreciate the time. So don't take it too hard. Have a good weekend, and we'll talk again next week.